There's a lot of great stuff happening at the Capstone right now, but one thing that's always good and always fun to talk about is ball recruiting, and that's what we're going to do today.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today? Tell me fast.
Fine. Doing fine. Alabama football recruiting.
There you go. Now you're a team player, bro. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Can't wait to tell you about FanDuel. Brand new sponsor. Y'all know FanDuel. They're the best. And we're going to talk about them in just a minute. Also, want to thank you for making us your first listen. We appreciate you guys a ton. Now, Jimmy, I want to get into some football recruiting now, which is, it probably seems a little counterintuitive because we're in the middle of basketball. A lot of things going on there too. We could be ranked number one just after we finish recording this podcast. We could. But instead of waiting to do that, there's so much recruiting stuff out there. You guys at On 3 are doing a marvelous job with it, by the way. For instance, at Battle Miami, which is, I guess they're just a gazillion different camps to go to. Julian Sayin, who is an Alabama commitment, a 5-star / high 4-star out of California, was the MVP at Battle Miami. I think that's awesome. I'm just going to read a little excerpt from what they said of him, the 6'3", 390-pounder. By the way, I feel like I've seen pictures of him. I feel like they're fudging a little bit on the 6'3". Am I wrong about that?
I don't think he's 6'3".
Okay.
I don't think he's 5'11 and a half, and I don't believe he's 6'3". Pick somewhere in between.
All right. This is an actual quote. The 6'3", 390-pounder arrived in Miami with a thicker frame, and it showed. Sayin didn't shy away from squeezing the ball into tight windows in the middle of the field or taking chances outside the numbers. He threw his receivers open and put some oomph. I've never seen oomph in an article before on throws when necessary and dropped it in on other attempts. The ball flies out of his hands as the Alabama commit kicked off the offseason in compelling fashion. Okay, I'm fired up. I love this. I think this is great. I love another quarterback out of California because I think it pisses Rick Neuheisel off, who always loves to complain about California talent leaving California and Pac-12 territory. But anyway, he's the number 4 quarterback in this class, plus or minus, number 5 some, number 3 some. But I think in the end he might bump up a little bit. It's doing really well. I am going to maintain that until I see something where he's measured at 6'3", that may be fudged a little bit. But I'm also going to tell everybody, if you've ever followed recruiting, everybody fudges everything just a little bit. So if he's 6'3", then if you got a curve, he's probably 1 3/4, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good guess, maybe 6'1 and a half. Yeah. This is the sort of thing, Luke, that gets kids in the rankings process on the track to being a 5-star. When you go to an event that's heavily covered, On 3 was all over it. We had our national guys there. We had some regional guys there. We had, I think, at least 3 significant dudes that are a lot of stuff at On 3 there. 24/7 was there. Rivals is there. This is the sort of thing that affects rankings because it's an in-person evaluation. You're on a field full of your peers, competing in the 7-on-7 event. So if people want to know how rankings work, this is a big deal. The kid comes all the way from California to Miami. And again, it helps to improve the player. It's good in every way, but it does affect the rankings. You can argue positively or negatively because so few kids are there, and able to compete in this thing. Yet the ones that are there, and do well are going to get a boost. Those that go and don't do well could also tumble a little bit too. But Julian Sayin did outstanding, the MVP of the event or whatever they call it, the alpha dog of the event. I think we shouldn't be surprised if even by spring and summer he's really at 5-star status. Now, how much does that really matter? I mean, it matters a heck of a lot in recruiting rankings, of course. But, hey, he's committed to Alabama, and he is what he is. He is what he is. Whether he's ever labeled a 5-star or remains a 4-star, he is what he is. And to me, it's all about what is Alabama getting. And it's clear from his performance at this camp that Alabama's getting one heck of a prospect, because this was a high-profile event. A lot of the best 2024 and 2025 prospects in the country were there. And for him to be the most impressive of all of them is something else. So all the more reason to be excited. And remain on just an unbelievable role at the quarterback position, starting with Jalen Hurts in 2016, through Tua, through Mac, through Bryce, hopefully now through Ty Simpson, maybe on to Julian Sayin, to say nothing of Eli Holstein and Dylan Lonergan. So good times. Yes, good times here at Locked On Bama, brought to you by FanDuel.
Salad days, as we have called them before. Unlike the time we spent with the three mics, which were the tossing salad days. Not everybody will get that joke. Okay, here's the thing that's great about Julian Sayin being committed. You're right. He goes down there, and there are a lot of good wide. In fact, now I'm assuming this was all sort of a quarterback, wide receiver skill position thing anyway. So I don't want to read too much into this, but other guys that were Julian Sayin was considered the MVP. And then there's DeCorian Moore out of Texas, who's a 2025 wide receiver. Josiah Trader, who is the number 8 overall player. He's an Ohio State commitment, but a wide receiver. And of course, look, you never know what's going to happen. So you keep trying to pursue these guys. And then the fourth guy on the list, this one's interesting, Jamie French. Okay. He's a Florida kid. I just pulled up his profile because I hadn't heard anything about him. He doesn't list Alabama as a favorite. I want Alabama to be a favorite, if only because he spells his name capital F, then lowercase f, R-E-N-C-H. So he's so French, he's got 2 F's in there.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
So what you could say, he could literally say, I do give an F. I could give you an F and still be French, if you know what I mean. So, not everybody gets that either. Anywho, so
I'm still laughing, so I got it.
I want to tell some folks about FanDuel now. Look, this is a brand new sponsor. We need you guys to go check them out. FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more. You've seen FanDuel advertise everywhere. Now they're advertising with us. We appreciate them a ton. The NFL playoffs are here. We're ready to buy our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they're the #1 sports book in America. FanDuel is the #1 sports book. That's it, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers, you join today to get started with $150 in bets, $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So all you got to do is deposit $5. You get $150 to play with. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props, whatever you got it at FanDuel. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at bigger payout with the same game parlay. Look, this past weekend, I love the Eagles because I just think the Eagles got it going on. And I like the 49ers. And I would have hit both of them had I known about this promo. I just got sprung on me too. So I would have made some money. So I'll be ready for next weekend because I'm about to sign up. All on an app that's safe and secure and super easy to use. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. That's a big deal too. And Locked On. That's even bigger deal. So, everybody about Locked On College Basketball, go check out Locked On College Basketball. They certainly will be talking about who the #1 team is when it comes out today. My money's on Purdue. And you know what? I mean, part of me is like, that's just tradition, and I get it. But I think it should be Alabama. I think Alabama's done more. But regardless, go check out Locked On College Basketball. They will be talking about it. They're part of the Locked On family, and they're good people, and they do a great job. Go check them out. All right, so continuing with our recruiting theme, Jimmy, one of my more coveted guys in this class, even though we've done a great job of recruiting defensive backs, the way Alabama is, you just got to keep going for more of, even if you feel like you're stocked. Ellis Robinson out of IMG Academy, probably the top defensive back in the 2024 class. He's going to make his commitment February 1. He literally just announced that. February 1, he's going to make his commitment. He's got a top 5. It's definitely going to come from that top 5. He said he's not playing around. The ones that really seem to have a shot, though, I mean, there's a top 5 in Penn State and Miami and whatever, but the ones that everybody thinks it'll be is either Georgia or Alabama. I really hope it's Alabama. I'm afraid it's Georgia. He's already made some comments to the effect of, it's all about relationships. It's all about this. And it feels like it just had a Georgia hint to it, an aroma of Georgia around it. Not a smelly aroma, an aroma of Georgia about it. So I'm a little concerned about it. I was excited to see it when he said February 1 he was going to announce, because my initial thinking was Alabama. The more I read his comments, the more I'm a little worried.
We think it's very likely that it'll be Georgia, very likely, but not certainly, but likely. Seems to be a Georgia lean at the, whenever a kid appears to be a lean and simultaneously announces his commitment date, it's certainly fair to read into that, right? But one thing to keep in mind here, first of all, he's not a make it or break it recruiting the 24 class. There's a long way to go. With recruiting in 24, and Alabama has an outstanding cornerback already committed in the 24 class, and Jalen Mbakwe from Clay Chalkville, Birmingham. A long way to go. He's going to commit on the second signing day of the 23 class, but very likely sign in the first signing day of the 24 class, which is in December. So we're talking more than 10 months. Which is plenty of time for Ellis Robinson to change his mind, for Alabama to do their work, do their job. Then you'll see who's going to be at cornerback for Georgia in the fall. Who's going to be at cornerback for Alabama? For instance, Alabama is likely to start Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold. That's what I tell you today. Well, Kool-Aid they're both draft eligible, but Kool-Aid might be the number 1 cornerback in his draft class. So there's a very good chance that Kool-Aid will leave. Then you sell Ellis Robinson of, hey, watch Kool-Aid all year and watch him close because we want you replacing him. So there's just a long way to go. There's no reason to get down in the dumps over this. You just keep on recruiting them. I mean, that's what Nick Saban's going to do. That's what Alabama's going to do. They're just going to keep on recruiting him and see what happens. And that's if he picks Georgia. We haven't been told for 100% certain or anything like that. So who knows? Maybe it is Alabama. There's still a week to go. Good chance he'll talk to Alabama before next Wednesday. So we'll see. But for now, our guess is Georgia.
Meanwhile, another guy that was at that Battle Miami is Charles Lester. I was going to say Lester Charles. It really does work either way. Charles Lester, another cornerback, one of the top 30 players in the country, according to you guys, at On 3. Y'all got him as the number 3 cornerback. I'm looking at his stats right now. Now, going to visit Clemson. This guy is very highly coveted. He's Clemson sort of come on late, apparently. He sported Georgia gloves at the South Florida Express when he was playing for Battle Miami. South Florida Express, name of his team. And, of course, Nick Saban just went to visit him, I think it was last week, at Sarasota, Florida, where he's from. So, he's certainly interested in Alabama. But if Alabama were to miss on something like an Ellis Robinson, which they very well could, maybe this guy can get into the fold then.
Yeah, he is another high priority target for Alabama, high up Alabama's list, high up everyone's list. Looks like a pretty good cornerback year. Again, Alabama coming off a class where you signed Desmond Ricks, who, by the way, had he not reclassified, he would have been the number 1 cornerback in the 2024 class. And as we know, ends up at Alabama. Alabama's already got one guy in Mbakwe. I would say max from here. And since you already got one, probably you max with 2 more, in terms of true cornerback type prospects. Lester would be near the top of that list. Guys, not a fantastic year in state. This is what's strange to me about this in-state group, Luke, is in terms of guys Alabama's going to be interested in, the super elite. It's not a great year in state for the super elite, for like slam dunk. You take them 100 times out of 100. Just here's a guy that's maybe, exactly. A few just not a great year, an average year in Alabama insofar as those guys. But in terms of what I would call an SEC prospect, a guy that looks like they're capable of playing in the SEC, it's a monster year in terms of quantity. There's lots of guys in Alabama who will play in the SEC. Just might be at Auburn, might be at LSU, might be at Mississippi State, might be at Ole Miss. Ton of SEC prospects. So Alabama's got to take a really close look because you hate Quinshon Judkins, right? I mean, the running back from Wetumpka ends up at Ole Miss and is the best freshman running back in all of the United States. Wasn't really recruited by Alabama or not recruited very hard. So the point is, you hate to see that happening. So Alabama's going to have to take a really long look at all of these kids in Alabama, so you don't repeat a Judkins situation. And it's a lengthy list. There's tons of good kids. You're talking about corners. There's several corners in the Mobile, Baldwin County area that, it would behoove Alabama to take a look at these dudes in camp before you say no.
Yeah, and you mentioned Quinshon Judkins. I think he went to Pike Road, didn't he?
Pike Road. Yeah, you're right.
It's funny. You said Wetumpka, which immediately made me think of Gavassier Smoke, who has the best name that's ever been in the history of college football. Gavassier Smoke is from Wetumpka. Right. I got to call him several times. Good player, strong, from Kentucky. He's transferring to Colorado, which I just find just interesting. I mean, again, Deion Sanders doing a pretty good job up there.
He's not okay. Let's take a break. Smoke's not super elite as a college player, but
he's an SEC back.
He's proven to me he would have been good enough to play at Alabama. Now, probably, and I mean this as a compliment, he's probably a Roydell Williams level player.
I would say in between Roydell and Brian Robinson. Is that fair?
No, I like it. I like it. Maybe, but you could be right. But maybe I thought you were about to say in between Roydell and Jace, and that would have been fair too.
I would put I was between Roydell and Brian too. And I know Brian Robinson's doing well in the NFL, but he's doing well in the sense that the way most NFL backs do. He doesn't fumble a lot. He can push the pile a little bit, and he's going to get you about 2.5, 3 yards a carry. He may occasionally go for 12. He may occasionally go for 1. He's not going to get tackled for a loss a lot, and he's not going to break a long one.
Well, if you're a running back in the NFL and you're playing every Sunday, you're good. You're good. You might not have numbers that make everyone want to draft you on their fantasy team, but you're a real good running back if you're playing on Sundays.
And you're rich. All right. So, that's the hands thing. That means rich. Anyway, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about a couple of guys that have visited Auburn recently. Okay. So Auburn has recently either had in for visits or talked to extensively Perry Thompson, who's committed to Alabama for next year, a wide receiver from Foley. They've also talked to Ryan Williams, wide receiver from Saraland, the 2025 class, who's just named Mr. Football in the state of Alabama as a sophomore. I don't know that that's ever happened.
No one can recall it happening.
Yeah.
No one can recall it happening. If it has, I don't know about it.
And then they also had Alvin Henderson, who's in the 2025 class, out of Elba, a running back that, he's like setting the world on fire statistically. And he looks great. I mean, I've seen some film of him. Looks really good. Now, Elba is lower classification, so, you got to factor in who he's playing against, of course. But a lot of places don't even have him rated yet. Like, even as a 3-star or whatever, I think they're just waiting to see. And he's also only a sophomore, so maybe they're waiting on some of that. But so those first two guys are already committed to Alabama at the wide receiver position. But now Auburn's got Hugh Freeze there, a guy who's going to throw the ball around. a guy who, is proven he's going to throw the ball around and probably has a much better selling point than the previous staff. The previous staff selling point was, do you want to come here? I mean, if not, we're fine. But now I think Hugh's actually going to recruit some dudes. So how worried should Alabama be about those two? And what is your take on Alvin Henderson at Elba?
First of all, yeah, Alvin Henderson, I think, is an outstanding prospect. But I want to, reiterate that prospect word with him, because he's even more of a prospect than a player because of the level he plays at. I learned a long time ago, you can't fall in love with these 1A and 2A guys until they've proven themselves at camps and combines where they are competing against the 7A and 6A guys. You really need to see them compete against those guys before you can get too excited about what they're doing in 1A ball. But based on what I've seen from Henderson, there's every reason in the world to be excited about what he might be. So that's definitely one for Alabama fans to put on the back burner in terms of, a guy we might get really excited about in the future. Perry Thompson and Ryan Williams taking a long look at Auburn does not surprise me at all. I think they're going to continue to flirt with and look at Auburn. I said this when Auburn hired Hugh Freeze. I mean it as a compliment, and I guess, and it's a bit of a shot at the former staff, like Luke did. But hey, Hugh Freeze is going to be the first Auburn coach in a while to sign high priority players for Alabama. In other words, hey, these are guys Alabama wants. Auburn hadn't beaten Alabama for guys Alabama wants in a while. And if they have, it's been really isolated. He's a really good recruiter. He appeals to a lot of kids. Auburn's NIL program is going to be very strong. No stronger than Alabama's, but it's going to be strong. They're more likely also to bunch up money for a high priority kid, whereas Alabama's more likely just to spread it out, give everybody about the same. But Auburn, I think, might be more likely to go big, on a kid. But Auburn is going to beat Alabama for players. That hasn't happened in a while. We need to get used to it. Will it happen with Perry Thompson and Ryan Williams? I don't think so. I won't be shocked if like a Perry Thompson decommits and goes on these visits and goes to Auburn multiple times. That won't shock me. I won't be shocked if at some point along the line Ryan Williams decommits to more enjoy the recruiting process or whatever. But all that matters is this: where are those kids going to sign signing day? And for Perry, that's this November. For Ryan, it'll be November of 2024. I think it's Alabama. Most kids sign where they're committed to. I do believe they're going to look around a lot. I do believe it's going to be noisy. I believe those with a weak stomach may not be able to fully enjoy the Perry Thompson and Ryan Williams recruitments. But in the end, I believe both are signing with Alabama. I really do.
Well, let's certainly hope so. I mean, you're right. I think people are going to not take it well when Alabama loses a recruit to Auburn or has one flip to Auburn or whatever, because we've been so used to it not happening, because Auburn has been, floundering under these coaches that don't really understand recruiting very much, it seems like. I know I'm throwing Gus Malzahn under the bus a little bit, and he had some success, but Alabama may have lost a guy or two to him, but for the most part, they didn't lose anybody to him, and they dang sure didn't lose anybody to Brian
It was
Harsin.
Isolated. It happened. It was isolated. Under Harsin, didn't happen at all. But under Gus, it was isolated. It did happen. And then before Gus, there was Tuberville, and late era Tuberville, Alabama wasn't losing guys to Auburn. Early Tuberville, definitely. We were probably splitting kids evenly with Auburn, the in-state kids. So really what we're looking at, I think, is going to look something a little bit more like early Tuberville, frankly.
All right. Well, if Alabama does move up to the number one spot, or they don't, we will talk about it on tomorrow's podcast. We didn't get one out because that's the way we work. And Jimmy and I are workaholics until we decide to sit on the couch. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Go check out Locked On College Basketball. They'll be talking about these rankings, and I can't wait to listen to them. Locked On College Basketball. Go give them a listen. And until tomorrow, everybody, roll tide.
Roll tide.